Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Joel Beya, and I am back with the one and only Mr. David Ornstein for the show, The Five Insider. I didn't see you last week, David, but it was still a great show with Joel Tomlinson. Okay, we're back. Let's get to it. So I want to look at contracts, first of all, David. We've got an Arsenal video coming out tomorrow where we're focusing on Arsenal contracts, but this one's a little bit more broad. I'm hearing whispers of Messi potentially going to Inter Miami. Now, I want to know a little bit more about this because from what I was hearing, he was going to make his way back to Barcelona at the end of the season with an emotional comeback. What is actually going on, and what is more likely out of the two?
Yeah, your little whisper. I think you've been reading my Monday column, so I'm pleased with you for that. And I understand why you had that feeling, because there was a lot of speculation, and there will continue to be, about Barcelona, right? Because of that link that he has to them historically, the fairy tale it would be for some if he was to go back second time round. I think equally PSG would like to give him a new contract when his deal expires at the end of this season. There is an option to extend, but really it's going to be in the hands of Lionel Messi to decide what he wants to do. And what we reported on Monday was that Inter Miami CF, who have been in talks with Messi's family, their representatives of him, for a couple of years now, and they're confident, they're increasingly confident that they are going to sign him when he leaves PSG, which they presume will be in the summer. Which would be a huge moment. Now, it isn't signed yet. It's not fully agreed, but they are at a stage where they think he will join, and they hope that he will put pen to paper in the coming months. They've done so much negotiation with his father, George. They have pursued him for such a long time. They've developed as a club themselves on and off the pitch, and they feel that now they stand the best chance they've ever had of getting him. The conversations will be paused during the World Cup. They'll be picked up in the new year, and then we should get a decision from Messi as to what he's going to do. With these things, Joel, until the ink is dry, you just never know. It's unpredictable, it's complicated, and it's intricate. But from what I'm hearing, speaking to multiple sources around this situation, Inter Miami are, in their minds anyway, the front runners, and they are planning their roster, or as we would call it, their squad, with him as part of it in their heads. But there's still some work to be done before it becomes a reality.
Now, obviously, Inter Miami, for those who might not know, the club was established in 2018. It's owned by David Beckham and currently managed by Phil Neville. But how increasingly sure or even willing are PSG to keep Messi? Like, are they interested in keeping? He's doing so well this season. Him, Neymar, and Mbappe, for me, they're up for Ballon d'Or if he was to start it from this season. Absolutely incredible stuff. Do they not want him to stay?
Yes, they do. And as I said, there's that option, but they would like to hand him a fresh deal, no doubt. And I understand that he may have some, desire to win a major trophy with them. I've seen that reported in some of the papers. Sorry, when I say I understand, I don't mean I'm giving you insight. I sympathize with the idea that he might want to win some.
Got you. Okay. Yeah.
And they will no doubt do what they can to keep hold of him. But there are people who are sort of quite privy to his thinking around the time that he joined PSG. And they say that it was always his plan to do the 2 years there and then move on to his next challenge at the age of 35, whether that be Barcelona, Inter Miami, or elsewhere. But we have seen with Paris Saint-Germain before that they can be persuasive. For example, it seemed a foregone conclusion that Kylian Mbappe was going to be signing for Real Madrid. I think even he probably thought it, and certainly Real Madrid did. But PSG throughout were saying, no, he's going to be staying. He's not going to be leaving. He's going to be signing a new contract. And in the end, he did. So we can't say with absolute certainty what's going to happen here. And if I'm just to pick up on your point about his form, that's the one really intriguing factor in all of this, because his first season at PSG did not go as smoothly or as well as he would have hoped. And it gave us the impression that maybe he was on a bit of a downward trajectory. But this season, he seems to be recapturing his best form, breaking records left, right, and centre. And actually, just before we started recording this, I was speaking to somebody who's really well connected within the football industry at that level. And he said to me, that's what may change this, the form. If he thinks that he can still deliver at the very top level in European football, then he could set records and landmarks that will never be beaten. And especially at a time where he seems to be edging a little bit ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo on that front, could that be the defining factor in his mind? But it doesn't change what's happening in the minds of Inter Miami. They do expect there to be really fierce competition, understandably. However, under, as you say, Phil Neville, they had a good season. They reached the MLS playoffs. Chris Henderson, the sporting director, is said to be doing a really good job there. David Beckham is the stardust. People in football say he has always dreamed of bringing Messi to his club. They've got a good relationship. They didn't actually ever play together, but they get on well and have high and huge respect for each other. And then the co-owners of David Beckham, George and Jose Mas, the Mas brothers, they've been leading this dialogue with the Messi family and his father for the last couple of years. They're spearheading it. And also they're spearheading the development of the club from an infrastructural point of view, because that's their background, construction. And Inter Miami have recently gained permission to start work on an incredible new permanent stadium complex at Miami Freedom Park, $1 billion. It looks, the proposal, spectacular. It would see them move from what was their temporary home now at Fort Lauderdale with a good training facility and medical apparatus as well. And that has coincided with the value of Inter Miami, according to the Sportico website, jumping higher in terms of the number of places that they've climbed in a valuation rankings table than any other MLS franchise. So after a really tough couple of years, because they actually entered competition 2 years after you said they launched, so 2020, that was the pandemic, empty stadiums. They had some trouble in terms of they were punished for breaking budget restrictions in the MLS. But they've suddenly found something. Gonzalo Higuain was really vital for them, driving them forward in the last season. And there's one other element in all of this, Joel, which is Miami itself. The Messi family have a strong affiliation with the city. They own a property there. They visit. There's the South American links, the Hispanic community, and it is a happening place, as we all know. And so there are a number of factors that, in Miami's mind, suggest that this is the perfect scenario. But as I said, until his name is on their headed notepaper, I don't think anyone will get ahead of themselves.
David, I think it's only right that we go from Messi's contract situation to Reiss Nelson's contract situation. Please let us know what's going on that side, because he bagged 2 against Nottingham Forest on the weekend, and he's a fan's favorite again.
Well, he's come back from nowhere, hasn't he, Reiss Nelson? Because he had figured for the Arsenal first team in Europa League this season, but he didn't seem really part of the Premier League setup. He returned from loan last season at Feyenoord, where he actually participated in the Europa Conference League final, and that was vital experience for him. And previously, we know that he had a productive loan spell at Hoffenheim when he was younger. I actually went out there to see him during that, and I was really impressed by him. And one of the things that struck me in the time I spent with him is how much he loves Arsenal. He's a proper fan. He's been there since a really early age, and it was his dream to make it there. I think he was so good, so young, and that perhaps created an expectation that he was going to erupt onto the scene and get opportunities and be the star player in the way that his best friend from youth, Jadon Sancho, did at sort of Borussia Dortmund, then got the move to Man United and has overshadowed Nelson in recent years. Some at youth level thought that Reiss Nelson was better than Sancho, but certainly they were neck and neck. But then at Arsenal, as he kind of lost his way a bit, the likes of Bukayo Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe kind of overtook him in the pecking order. Actually, when I went out to Hoffenheim, 2018, I think it was, he said to me that of all the young players coming through at Arsenal, the one you need to watch out for is Bukayo Saka. And I'd never heard of him, and
Really?
he hadn't made any headlines at all. And
Wow.
so it proved. But now, ironically, he's coming on for Saka and he's injured against Nottingham Forest, scoring the 2 goals. And it's put him in the spotlight. It's a lovely story. But the serious matter is that his contract expires in the summer of 2023. So he's only got a number of months left on it. I'm not sure or aware of there being any contract talks just yet. He said publicly after the Forest game that he would love to extend his deal, but he's just focusing on his football. It seems that Mikel Arteta has seen something in him, doesn't it? Because there was no loan move or permanent transfer last summer. It feels like he could get more opportunities here. Now, it's impossible to say whether he is going to make it as a regular player at Arsenal, whether they are going to give him a new contract. But I do think it's very interesting how Reiss Nelson has come back to the fore, and it could create a really nice story. Also, a really good option for Arsenal, because when they let Nicola Pepe leave for Nice in the summer on loan, they were 1 winger down, technically. They were linked with, moves for a number of potential wingers. I saw reports Moussa Diaby, Mudryk at Shakhtar Donetsk, of course, Pedro Neto, which I reported with him eventually staying at Wolves. They didn't bring anybody in. They shifted their focus on deadline day to a holding midfielder. And that left a gap, which Reiss Nelson appears to have stepped into it, perhaps helped by the injury to Emile Smith-Rowe. And when opportunity knocks, it's up to you whether you take it.
Sorry, a bit thirsty there. I'm just very happy that, he's back in the frame. He also actually said, didn't he? I only have some months left on my contract. Getting a new deal would be amazing, and I would love to commit to the club. He spoke like that after the Forest game. And for me, you're right. It just reminds you how much of an Arsenal fan he is, and I absolutely love it. Last situation I want to look at it's actually Manchester United. Yep. There's a few players who, it looks like they need to renew contracts, or they're going to move them on, or they're going to sell them. I don't know what they're going to do, but you have a Marcus Rashford, whose contract expires in the summer. Luke Shaw, Cristiano Ronaldo, David De Gea. Now, I don't know what one you want to start off with, but very interesting. I mean, I just want to point out Marcus Rashford.
Yeah,
he looks like he's come back from the dead, man. And I'm really happy for him, because he was off form, and we all know how wonderful he is, for the kids up and down the country, and how much he's done for England as well, from such a young age. And obviously, putting aside the Man United and Arsenal rivalry that I have, I generally like him as a person, and you want to see people do well, not too well above your team, but I'm glad that he's finding some sort of form, because it's disheartening to see someone completely lose their confidence like that, all in all.
Yeah, the early signs of it being a bit of a phoenix from the ashes story, because he was really struggling. Do you remember that chance where he sort of didn't even chase the ball down, which was one of the most strange things I saw last season, and it just the look on his face and the body language said that something wasn't quite right. And he's spoken this season about having a bit of a mental battle in recent times. There have been people who have suggested his focus wasn't fully on football. I don't think that's the case. I think Marcus Rashford is a guy who has been grown up at Manchester United, in the public eye. He's able to multitask. He's done some amazing work off the pitch, but sometimes you hit different stages of your development where it's harder physically, technically, mentally, the changes of managers at Manchester United, the tough times that they've experienced. And we don't know what happens in players' private lives that may cause some issues as well. But what we're seeing at the moment is fantastic. The smile that's been on his face, the chances that he's getting, the positions that he's moving into. He hasn't been scoring all of the chances that have come his way. And if he had been, this would be an even bigger story now. But the way he took goals, was it against Liverpool and Arsenal? And that header was just incredibly special. I thought the technique, the way he attacked it, we've not seen that from Marcus Rashford before. You're right. He's a really good lad. He's a good professional. And it's going to be a subject that Manchester United need to address pretty urgently. He'll, I think, go to the World Cup. I don't know what you think, Joel, the way he's playing.
I think he has to, when you look at that team, and I think Raheem Sterling gets himself into great positions. And I think if not, who else can run in behind this? It's Marcus Rashford.
So I think Rashford, yep.
I was going to add, he mentioned that he wasn't in a good headspace.
That's right. Yeah.
For a professional player to say that, like you said, we don't know what's going on in their personal lives, David.
And we need to respect that. And there's so much scrutiny over these boys and girls. And we have a media, we're part of it, that is picking over every detail. But we've got to show some appreciation for the fact that when you're in the public eye like they are, then they're still human. And the way he's turned it around, although it's only maybe the green shoots of recovery still at the moment, an embryonic sort of rebirth, it bodes really well. And so with the World Cup coming, I think that could be a great opportunity. And then on to the contract, as you say. So he has a deal that runs until the summer of 2023, and Man United have an option to extend that by 12 months. So what we don't know just yet is whether they'll extend it sooner rather than later and then try and renegotiate, whether they'll try and renegotiate first. And if that doesn't work, then just extend it to give themselves the security. But I don't think Marcus Rashford is going anywhere, despite the well-documented interest from the likes of Paris Saint-Germain last summer. I always think that Marcus Rashford wants to make a success of his career at Manchester United as a priority. If it goes wrong, then he'll always have options to go elsewhere. But the way things are now going again, he's back on track, and I see him being a great asset for Manchester United and for England.
Like I said, Luke Shaw as well. I mean, he always seems to be, improving his game where there's someone else that comes along in the beginning. I mean, he looks like he's the number one pick over Malacia. I saw that spark when Telles first came into the team. His contract runs out in the summer. Will he be staying? Will he be going?
Again, a contract that runs until 2023 with the option to extend. So Man United have got themselves into quite good positions in that sense. You're right, though. It doesn't mean they don't need to address it. And it will be a similar situation to Rashford. Luke Shaw, as you say, every time there's a threat to his status in the team, he seems to come back stronger. What I've seen recently is a player who looks in better physical shape. He hasn't been picking up the injuries with quite the frequency that we were seeing before. He is getting up and down the pitch under Erik ten Hag in a way that I don't think he was under previous managers. And you would suspect that, he'll start at the World Cup for England.
Chilwell looks like he's in he looks like he might not go at all, to be honest with you.
Which strengthens the case of Luke Shaw, who, of course, scored in the Euros final. And things are going better for him now, and therefore you suspect that he will extend at some point, or United will take that option and buy themselves a bit more time.
And David De Gea, club legend. I can't even imagine where Man United would be if he wasn't with them during, their tenure after Sir Alex Ferguson. 31 years old, which for a goalkeeper is still pretty young, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's it, really. I mean, so I don't see, again, I don't know how the United fans feel, or I don't know how the board feels, but I don't see why you wouldn't want to extend his contract. Fantastic servant, great goalkeeper still. I don't know.
Well, this is the biggest one, in my opinion, because David De Gea is coming towards being in the top 10 of Manchester United's all-time appearance holders, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. He is, we think, still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. On recent evidence, I think that's fair to say. But he's had a bit of a tumultuous few years in terms of his form, being at Manchester United during the ups and downs, losing his place in the Spain's starting lineup, at least, and the squad at times too. And I'll answer your question by saying that one of the reasons why they might not want to give him a new contract is because he earns so much money. Is it £375,000? Yeah. So there is a report that goes into great depth on this by my colleague Laurie Whitwell on The Athletic, and it talks about the possibility that he will sign a new deal on reduced terms, which is quite extraordinary. But that even he has hinted at the fact that he might want to do that to extend his stay at Manchester United, which is pretty extraordinary for a player who was constantly linked in the past with the likes of Real Madrid and a return to Atletico Madrid, and now sees himself as happy and would potentially take a pay cut to stay at Manchester United. There's a massive factor in this, Joel, and it's whether Erik ten Hag sees David De Gea as the goalkeeper he wants for that sort of weekly wage. There is an option to extend him as well. And so an extra 12 months, even if they just take that, is extremely costly, well above £10 million for that year. So maybe a contract renewal or letting him go on as a free agent is more desirable if they have an alternative plan. And they've been linked with the likes of Diogo Carlos at Porto, with who was the other one I saw? Unai Simon at Athletic Bilbao, who's one of those who have got ahead of him in the Spanish pecking order. And that's because Erik ten Hag is said to want a goalkeeper who can play out with his feet and be part of building the attacks. And that's not traditionally been the way that David De Gea plays. But from what I've seen of him of late, he still remains a crucial part of Manchester United's plans. And so it's difficult, as you say, to envisage them without him. But that's a massive decision coming up, as is the wider goalkeeping department, because I think there are similar situations with Tom Heaton. And then Martin Dubravka came in from Newcastle on loan, and he hasn't featured at all. There was an injury in there. But even since he's been fit, I think Heaton's been ahead of him on the bench. What does the future of Dean Henderson hold? He's on loan at Nottingham Forest, doing okay. If he comes back, it would be because he wants to play, not to just make up the numbers. Yeah. So I think the goalkeeping department at Manchester United is one that we need to pay attention to. And their recruitment staff are out there looking for options to give Erik ten Hag what he wants, whether that's his first choice or backups. So there might be some surgery there in the summer ahead.
Lastly, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Mm-hmm.
It looks obvious to see that he's even going to leave in January at the end of the season, right? Could there be a funny twist where he stays a little bit longer? Yes, no?
God, I sound like a broken record here. There's an option to extend with him as well. So Man United have control over the situation until the summer of 2024, when he'd be, 38? Maybe older. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, and a half.
37 at the moment. Yeah, so I think he'd be 38. No, it'd be 38 in the summer of 2023. So they can extend even further. Look, Cristiano Ronaldo wanted to leave last summer. He's back in the team now after being banished for a match for his reaction when he walked down the tunnel before the end of the Spurs game. So it feels like one moment things are terrible, the next they're okay. We see social media posts from family members or fans who seem to be linked to him in some way, criticizing the situation and suggesting there's a lack of respect shown towards him. Erik ten Hag, from my point of view, seems to be managing the situation okay, and United are doing well. I think if there is a solution for all parties in January and Cristiano Ronaldo is not playing a key role in that squad, then they'll look to take it potentially. But I think they would have probably done so in the summer also if push came to shove. And that never happened because there weren't the credible offers from his perspective and or United's perspective. So, yeah, it's possible that something happens in January, but it's not guaranteed. It's very possible that he stays until the end of the season and then they will reassess it. Does that option get activated? Does he leave? It's one that I don't have the insight on to call, and I'm not sure anyone does because the decisions have not been made yet, and it will all depend on the market for Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, his priority in the summer was to go somewhere to continue playing Champions League football. That's not what Manchester United were able to offer, but it doesn't seem that anybody else was either. There was a big proposal from Saudi Arabia, but he decided not to take it. So it's another one that's fascinating, and it will rumble on in terms of his presence on the pitch and what might happen off of it for him as well.
I wonder if he went to pre-season and had a proper one, if clubs would have still been a little bit more interested. Obviously, he couldn't because it was reported due to family reasons. Yeah. So we understand why. But I wonder if he did have a pre-season and he felt like he wanted to leave, if there would have been more suitors. Question I would love to ask him one day what he thinks about.
And a question for you. Messi at Inter Miami and Ronaldo at LA Galaxy?
Oh, gosh, it's going all over again, starting all over again, isn't it? We'll see what happens. It's a possibility. It really is a possibility as well. But David, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it as always. The Five Insider. Guys, please make sure you check out David's article at The Athletic and also check out his social links all in the description. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we will be back next week. Myself, Joel Beya, David Ornstein, signing out. Peace.